Good afternoon. You're listening to Gambling with an Edge. Now here are your hosts, Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
Our guests today are Captain Jack Andrews and Rufus Peabody, two expert sports handicappers and principals of the Unabated.com website. Today we're talking about Super Bowl prop bets. Captain Jack and Rufus, welcome to Gambling with an Edge.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be back here again.
It really is. Thanks a lot for having us.
Our pleasure. First of all, Jack, Unabated.com has created a lot of Super Bowl prop bets content, some of which is recent and is viewable now on the website, some of which is due to be created this weekend. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we believe that the Super Bowl is a really big game. I don't think anyone who has ever done sports betting would disagree with that. It's a great opportunity to find a lot of value in the market, especially related to prop bets. So at Unabated, we've taken this approach that it's a big deal for us. We've put together a series of live streams. I think we're going to have 5 live streams in total, 4 of which have already aired. The final one, which I'm calling Super Stream 56, airs on Saturday night live on YouTube and Twitter. YouTube, you can just search for Captain Jack Andrews, Twitter, CapJack2000, or at Unabated Sports. And the live stream we're going to do on Saturday is going to be sort of like a big talk show. And I'm just going to have guests all through the evening come in, talk about the game, give some picks, give some sides they like, give some props they like. And I'm going to have everybody on there. I'm going to have bookmakers, bettors, podcasters, pundits, sports betting legends are going to drop by. I think it's going to be a really cool time. And if anyone sort of wants to kind of ramp up for the game this Saturday night, they're welcome to tune in and watch it.
That sounds like an awful lot of guests. How long is this going to go on?
Richard, it's going to go as long as it needs to go. I'm working on kind of coordinating all the signups. Hope to have about 3 to 4 an hour kind of go. No, 3 to 4 every 20 minutes come through. It'll probably have to go close to 3 hours to get everybody in, but I think it'll be a fun time.
At what time does this start? This
is going to start 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And yes, you can look for it on YouTube. Maybe we'll put a link in the show notes for this as well, to that live stream.
Do you care to get any more specific on which guests they are other than famous sports bettors and bookies?
Let's see. The one that I really am looking forward to is one of the legends, Roxy Roxborough, is going to drop by. Oh. And he said he's going to be halfway through his happy hour at that time. So I'm not sure what we'll get out of Roxy. But I mean, Rufus is going to join, as well as Peter Jen, who recently joined us at Unabated to kind of give us a little bit more credibility in the DFS space as well as in the betting space. He's a legendary DFS sports bettor. And various other people. Spanky will be dropping in. Rufus's podcast partner, Jeff Ma, will be dropping in. A lot of different people.
Very good. Now, do you have anything going during the game itself?
So at Unabated, we keep adding tools and resources. And one of the things that we added recently was a game odds screen where you can watch the odds move around the country at various sports books. You can look up lines and see who has the best pricing. You can see line moves happen at some of the key market-making sports books that then get replicated through the market, and you can kind of watch that happen in real time. But one of the keys of that is we have contracted with Deckprism Sports. Now, Deckprism is a B2B provider. In other words, they're a back-end business provider for sports books. They provide the lines for sports books. And we are one of the only places you're going to be able to find the Deckprism line to price on a game. And in that, we're going to have an in-game feed with Deckprism. And this actually, we haven't announced this yet. This is a little exclusive for you guys. During the Super Bowl, we are going to have the in-game pricing from Deckprism in real time. So if you're watching the game and you want to know what the price is on the in-game market, trust me, Deckprism is the sharpest of the sharp when it comes to in-game pricing. We're going to have their line in real time, and you can find that all at unabated.com.
So by real time, you mean we're seeing the line at the same moment that the sports books that subscribe to their line are getting it?
Absolutely, Richard. Yeah, definitely. And now keep in mind with Deckprism, they are not one of those who try to put out a line, as the running back is crossing the 23-yard line and moving. They wait for there to be a stoppage in play. So it's not like it's going to be just like this shifting line back and forth as you see it on the screen. It's going to be when there's stoppages, they put up their line for sports books to use for their in-game pricing.
So the sports books that don't use Deckprism presumably have a worse line. Do they start copying it the way they do the market-making bookmakers' lines, or are they looking at it and copying it rather than paying for it themselves?
Well, so most sports books have some sort of in-game pricing operator that they use for their pricing model, and there's actually only a handful of them that are out there in the market to use. I think they're all inferior to Deckprism based on what I've seen. I think Deckprism is the sharpest in the market for certain sports, NFL being one of them. Matt Davidow is brilliant at his in-game pricing for the NFL and college football. And I think more sports books are going to start using Deckprism. And this is sort of one way they can kind of tell, oh, wow, Deckprism actually is sharper. And it's a benefit to consumers, bettors, who would like to see the Deckprism line and maybe pick off some lines around the world that are just not as sharp as the Deckprism line on certain things, maybe around some key numbers in game. So it's an opportunity for people to use Unabated and kind of get the edge on the in-game pricing market. Now, how inefficient is the Super Bowl in-game pricing market? I'm not sure. It's going to be a situation where I don't know how much value you'll find, but it could be very interesting for people to see. And it's one thing that we're going to have in our odds screen going forward. So for all sports, you're going to have the Deckprism in-game pricing odds on our odds screen.
Is Ed Miller associated with Deckprism along with Matt?
Yes, Ed Miller and Matt Davidow, the two authors of The Logic of Sports Betting, founded Deckprism Sports, and they're building a great operation there. They're just continuing to grow and get more and more clients. Pinnacle Sports, offshore giant, they use Deckprism. Circa Sports, there in Nevada as well as in Colorado, they use Deckprism. Some other sports books that are coming online that are looking to be a sharp sports books are using Deckprism.
I think people would be more interested in who isn't using it, right, than who is. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you can read between the lines, and you can find the recreational books that don't realize they need Deckprism yet.
All right, Rufus, since Jack's been talking so much, we're going to ask a question for you. Part of the content that Unabated.com is prepared are two separate videos of you explaining how you do what it is that you do. You've been a prominent, successful sports bettor, and you revealed some of your secrets that haven't been revealed before. This must make you feel a little exposed. Are you glad you did this, and do you think you'll do it again next year?
Bob, you're right. It did make me feel a little bit exposed. People can come and criticize my methods all they want as a result now. And I'm putting information out there into the market. But I really believe it's a way of thinking about things. And I don't think that just understanding how to think about it is going to get someone to the correct number necessarily. There's still a lot of work they have to put in. They have to be able to ask certain questions of data. And so I think it's a framework that can help people that are looking to become sharper at betting and to be able to quantify their opinion in a way that is sort of logical and I guess to be able to price out all these different available prop options. But it's something I would be happy to do again, actually. I think I enjoy talking about it. I think I think the days of the sort of easy money on prop betting that we saw, or Super Bowl prop betting specifically, that we saw like 10, 15 years ago, aren't really quite there as much as they once were. I'm not able to bet under 3.5 field goals at plus 125 when Coast opens, or, Kurt Warner longest completion under 56.5 yards. So there aren't the same sort of easy opportunities. Like, there are still significant edges available in the prop market, but it's certainly gotten tighter. And so, and it's less a part of what I do now. I bet props basically once a year for the Super Bowl, because props, they take a lot of work. There's a big art to it. It's quite labor intensive. And so I think I'm not super concerned that I'm going to completely erode my value just by talking about the framework in which I analyze things.
Okay. In most years, there's an ebb and flow of prop bets. When the teams are first announced, the prop bets come out and the pros beat the numbers into shape. Beginning about when this episode will be posted, large amounts of money flood in from square bettors. This brings the sharp bettors back in to take advantage of what the square bettors created. This is normal, although now we have online betting at states all across the country, and it might be different. Is this what we've been seeing this year, or not?
Bob, it is. It is what we've been seeing, but I do think it's a little bit different than what we've seen, I guess 10, 15 years ago. There's been this, since legalization, we've seen less opportunities for sharp bettors when these lines open, because books like DraftKings and FanDuel and BetMGM are booking sort of these esoteric prop bets every week for NFL games. So the operators are able to price these a lot better than they were in the past, when it was sort of a once a year type of situation. So while in the past, a lot of my value came from getting these opening bets and racing other professionals to mispriced opening lines, it's sort of transitioned to more value coming the weekend of the Super Bowl, as the public sort of bets their overs, bets on things to happen, and sort of can skew lines sort of away from the efficient price. And so I'm actually going to be doing a majority of my betting, I think, maybe for the first time this year, on Super Bowl weekend.
Are you flying across the country so you can make bets in various jurisdictions, or are you doing it all from one location?
I'm going to be driving to Arizona, and I have partners in other states as well. So that'll be useful, but I will be personally in Nevada.
Wait, so the lines are different? Like it? I see. The individual books that aren't national are the ones where you might find different lines in different states.
Well, even national books, some of these, because of the regulations and certain software providers being licensed in one state and not in others, there are different line sets. So the line set for Caesars, the Caesars app, We Are All Caesars, is different than the line set for Caesars William Hill in Nevada.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't until recently either.
We've seen quite a bit of that varying across states. Caesars in Pennsylvania uses a different one than Caesars in New Jersey, and there was a prop bet that a lot of people have been attacking on. Will there be a touchback on the opening kickoff? And the line at Caesars and most of the country adjusted, but they didn't move the line that was in their older software used in Pennsylvania and Nevada, and that line was more advantageous. And just as a hint there, with that kickoff, a popular, I guess, social media influencer named Pat McAfee, he used to play for the Indianapolis Colts, he said that he's kicked in the Super Bowl, and the ball they use for the opening kickoff is not one they let them practice with and rough up and kind of, get into game shape. It's a ball that used for the kickoff, and then they send it straight to the Hall of Fame. And as a result, he says it's like kicking a brick. And that's why we're seeing a higher rate of non-touchbacks on the opening kickoff. And so that line, where it's normally set to be a good percentage of the time there will be a touchback on the opening kickoff, as there are in most NFL games, for the Super Bowl, that line's been moving down and down. So whereas some people were able to get no touchback on the opening kickoff at like plus 170, it's actually down to, I was looking at FanDuel right before we started the call here, it's down to minus 118 that there will not be a touchback on the opening kickoff.
So it really behooves you to have a national network. I mean,
yeah, definitely. The more outs you can have, the better. Now, for the majority of sports books like DraftKings, FanDuel, they are the same across the country. But like as Rufus mentioned, there are some situations where they have a different software provider or they have a different line between states for the same operator. And then you have situations like Colorado that have so much many sports books than other states have. And they are able to, you're able to shop with a little bit more lines in Colorado and New Jersey than other states.
But since Caesars is different, does this mean that Cooper Manning is not always Caesar's favorite Manning son? Okay, let's assume some of our listeners don't want to do the work, want you to do the work, and want to have some good, smart lines which they can make for small numbers maybe and help them enjoy the Super Bowl. Do you have any suggestions along those lines?
Well, I think every listener of your broadcast, if you've listened to this over the years, it's been drummed into your head, the no safety bet, right? So the no safety, obviously, we all know the reason for it, and we all know that stretch of years, about a decade ago, where the safety hit in like 4 out of 5 Super Bowls, and it's been a big pros versus Joes bet. So personally, I think the no safety might be kind of getting back to the point where the sports books know not to drop it too low. However, if you are in Las Vegas and if you don't mind standing in a long line on game day at some of these sports books, you can often find value on the no safety on game day. Really, I think we're going to see it dip under minus 1,000, meaning you'll have to lay under 10 to 1, but you're going to have to lay 10 to win 1 at minus 1,000. I might see it go as low as minus 800, which is you lay 8 to win 1. But that's one of those bets that a lot of APs kind of would prefer not to make anymore. I think one of the, if that's a bridge jumper, then a lower bridge to possibly be wanting to jump from is the no defensive or special teams touchdown. And this is another bet where the public loves to bet the yes. The public loves to see things happen, and they watch the Super Bowl to see what will happen, and they bet the Super Bowl to see what will happen. So they're always betting the yes or things to happen or go over. They rarely want to look at a boring Super Bowl game. So a defensive or special teams touchdown is a big one. They can usually get good plus money at that, plus 200 or so. If you're able to find the no defensive or special teams touchdown at a price better than minus 260, you've probably got a decent bet there. And I think that's one that you can kind of shop around on game day and find something that is not quite a cliff like the no safety, but is still a decent wager.
Now, you mentioned standing in line. There's still, you can make these on your phone, can't you?
Yes,
in many
you can
places,
make it on the phone as well.
It's totally is there a line there on your phone?
Probably not.
But the problem in Nevada, Bob, is you can't load cash onto your phone without going to the book and putting it in cash.
Yeah, but you can do that beforehand, so you don't have to fade the long lines on Super Bowl Sunday.
If you live here, but if you're coming in from, California or something, you may end up having to stand in line to get an account and get it funded.
Yes. Okay. What about 3-point margin of victory? Generally speaking, betting the no is one that Michael Shackelford usually recommended whenever he was on the show doing this. It's 4 out of the last 6 games have ended in exactly 3 points. I've heard rumors that it bit some guy who's supposed to know it all called Rufus Peabody, and he took a bath on that one recently. So what would be a number we would look at? And is that going to be a better bet this year because the squares are going to bet the yes on that?
Well, I'll start and maybe Rufus can chime in here.
Well, he has to say something now.
Yeah. we have tools at Unabated that actually could help you solve this. And I think this is really interesting for your audience is we have an alternate lines tool, which allows you to put in what the primary line is and find what the alternate price should be for a certain spread. And that's very useful on the Super Bowl because there's going to be tons of different alternate spreads and alternate totals that are going to be available for betting. But in terms of solving this bet, you would want to put in and find out what are the odds of the game landing on 3 for either the Rams or the Bengals. Now, for the Rams, you're starting at -4.5, and you're finding what is the odds of it landing, what would the proper price be for -2.5, and what would the proper price be for -3.5, and then subtracting the difference in terms of implied probability. Now, I understand explaining math on audio is not the easiest thing, but we have an article up on Unabated in our education section with our articles, which is our Super Bowl 56 resource guide. In it, I kind of walk through all the steps. The bottom line is for this bet, there is some value still in the market. And we have it priced at -550 on the no is what it should be. In other words, will the game be decided by exactly 3 points? No, the price should be -550. And if you're looking around still in Vegas, you can find -500. Now, -550, it should be -550. You're getting it at -500. You go, oh, okay, that's got to be what, a 10% edge, 555 -50. No, it's not a 10% edge. It's about a 1.5% edge. However, there's a lot of blackjack players out there who go gaga over a 1.5% edge. So,
video poker players too.
What's that, Bob?
Video poker players too.
There you go.
Yeah, we'd kill for 1.5%.
It's a decent little edge for you, and it's it's a good bet. And you can also use our tool to do what will the game be decided by 7 points or exactly 6 points or exactly 10 points. I've seen all those props out there. And I'll give you a little hint. There is value out there on those as well.
Another one.
Wait. Okay, before we leave it, I kind of threw Rufus under the bus here. He deserves a chance to respond.
No, I was able to bet, will the Rams score or will the Rams win by exactly 3 points? Bet the no on that last week or for the NFC Championship game at no -7. Will not move their VIG off of -110 on NFL sides. So they were worried about having a lot of liability if the game landed on 3. So they offered this prop bet to sort of allow people like me to bet the no. Unfortunately for me, the Rams won by exactly 3. So I did take a bit of a bath on that one.
So
that's a medium-sized bridge. Not as bad as 1,000, worse than 550.
Just talking about field goals reminded me that a few years back, I found it interesting that Shackelford used to bet the over-under on the number of field goals for many years, and then it was starting to change, I guess because of the rules changes in the NFL. And I'm wondering if there's anything there these days, what those lines look like, or have they been sort of hammered into shape?
So I think field goals used to be one of those bets that the public loved betting the over on, and it still may be. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like on Sunday. But back when I got started, when I met Michael Shackelford actually in 2009, that Super Bowl, I was able to bet under 3.5 field goals at plus money. And despite the fact that most games end with 3 or fewer field goals, what we've seen is the prices get a little sharper there, but I still do think public money will come in on that over 3.5 field goals made. And so there may be value betting the under.
But has the number of field goals per game changed over the last few years because of the more 2-point plays or other rule changes?
It's ebbed and flowed. There was a time when it sort of increased a little bit as teams were attempting all these field goals that they would not have attempted in years past. When would a team have tried a 55-yarder in the past? It would have been very rare. So you have more of those being attempted, but at the same time, teams going for it on 4th down more. playing more of an analytically sound strategy. And so those kind of effects have washed out a little bit. And so there isn't, at least there hasn't been some very large change in field goals at least in the recent past.
But I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, they changed the overtime rules that both teams get the ball, except in certain cases, which would tend to add to the number of field goals, although not many go to overtime. So that had somewhat of a countervailing thing.
I would sort of argue that it also, I guess it could affect the tail there, because you could have a situation like you did in the Raiders-Chargers game to end the season, where both teams went down and scored a field goals on their first possessions of overtime. But at the same time, teams are now incentivized on that opening possession to score a touchdown to win the game, whereas in the past, in sudden death, they would have just kicked a field goal.
Okay. But there are other rules that have definitely changed over the years. You see more fourth down conversions these days. So you see more, under 2-yard touchdowns, a variety of things that you did not see so much 10 years ago when you first met Michael Shackelford.
You're right. There's more you see more 2-point conversions attempted and converted, largely because you have longer extra points now. And so that changes the scoring distribution a little bit, and you'll have more scenarios where it's optimal for teams to go for two. Plus, teams are being smarter in terms of going for two in these situations that in the past coaches hadn't even thought about it, such as after scoring a touchdown, a team down by 14 scores a touchdown late in the game. It's actually optimal counterintuitively to go for two there. But yeah, the market, the game is always changing, and it's important when analyzing it statistically to sort of be aware of those rule changes and sort of the trends where the league's going. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to use the last 20 years of data and it'll be fine.
All right. We have more to ask Captain Jack Andrews and Rufus Peabody right after this commercial break. The South Point has more than 10,000 games returning at least 99%. This is more such games than anyone else has. Throughout February, the $500 plus Crazy Cupid's Money Madness will have 2 casino-wide promotions running at all time. The larger promotion, which starts at $10,000 and must be hit by $25,000, give all active players $25 in free play when the promotion is hit. The smaller promotion, which starts at $1,000 and must be hit by $25,000, is scheduled to be hit approximately 3 times a day. Once hit, these progressives start over again and will continue to do so until they're hit after 3 a.m. on March 1st. To be eligible for both promotions, players must have played $1 in coin in the previous minutes. There are 3 separate locations within the South Point where free Super Bowl viewing parties will be available, including the showroom, including the grand ballroom upstairs, betting stations, and will be available, and drink and food specials are also available.
Hey, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and if you're serious about card counting, I'm sure Bob and Richard would agree that there are 3 things every advantage player needs to succeed. You need to gain the edge over the house, you need to manage your bankroll, and you need to get the hours in at the casinos. After a decade of playing professionally and running teams, I wanted to create the exact training, tools, and community I wished I had had for myself and my blackjack teams, so we created the Blackjack Apprenticeship membership. Our membership will help you perfect your game, manage your bankroll, and you'll join a supportive community of like-minded card counters and APs. Find out more at blackjackapprenticeship.com.
Videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most of the game. The game of the week is Wheel Poker Deluxe. This is a game where you pay an extra 5 coins per game, meaning triple play costs 20 coins, 5 play costs 30 coins, and 10 play costs 55. And the bonuses come on dealt, trips, full houses, and quads. slightly different for Deuce's Wild variations. If you get one of these bonuses, you spin the wheel. When the wheel spins, it lands on a drawing opportunity. Sometimes it's 100 play, 4 to a flush. Sometimes it's 10 play with a pair of aces. Sometimes it's triple play, 4 to the royal, etc. There's no skill involved in the hold for the bonuses, and the bonuses aren't on the draw, meaning that if you know the strategy for the base game, you know the strategy for the Wheel Poker Deluxe version, which adds a bit of EV with a bit of variance. Surprisingly, the triple play version always pays a bit more percentage-wise than the 5-play version. For example, in 9-6 double-double bonus, the base game is 98.98%. The 5-play version of Wheel Poker Deluxe is 99.31%, and the triple play version returns 99.47%, all with the exact same strategy. All right, we are back with Captain Jack and Rufus. What tools on Unabated.com that we haven't talked about yet will help us with prop bets?
So probably the biggest one we have that helps with prop bets is our prop simulator. And this is really important for people that want to play player performance props, such as the big one in the Super Bowl is Cooper Kupp. Okay, Cooper Kupp, outstanding receiver with the LA Rams. Everyone's expecting him to have a big game. And the lines for him are kind of all over. They're drifting higher. Yards receiving for the game, he's anywhere from 102.5 yards to 106.5 is what I saw today so far, and I think it's going to go even higher. You can use our prop simulator to enter in a projection for Cooper Kupp and have it return a distribution. It'll run a simulation of 10,000 times, 10,000 games, and it'll return a distribution of all the yardage prices for him for various yards from 106.5 to 102.5. Maybe you find a prop, will Cooper Kupp have over 100 yards receiving? You can find a line for 99.5 to figure out his probability of going over 100. But it's real important. What you're entering here is you're entering your mean. You're entering your projection, or you can go around the web and try to find other projections. The one caveat I always tell people, though, is don't use a sportsbook line for your projection, because sportsbooks price things on the median. They don't care his average. They care what's the point where half of the time he goes over and half the time he goes under. That's what they use as their line, as a median. And the median is different than the mean. So you want to enter the mean into our props tool, and we'll give you the median projection. And that's also very important, because if you were to just use the mean and take your projection for Cooper Kupp and go to all these sportsbooks lines, chances are you're going to bet a lot of overs, because the mean in a distribution for player performance is usually positively skewed. And so the median is lower than the mean, or the mean is more to the right side of the curve than the center we have on a normal distribution. I always get a little flustered when I try to talk about probability and statistics when I have Rufus in the same room, because it's sort of like the junior student, in front of the master. You just get a little bit conflated. But point being is, use our tool, you enter the mean, we give you the median, and you can use it to then price out various projections on player receiving yards, running back receiving yards, quarterback passing, tight end receiving, a whole gamut of array of prop bets.
Well, I learned something. I had no idea that you and Rufus were in the same rooms. I thought you were a couple thousand miles apart. But anyway, I learned something all the time. Can you use it for such things as number of first downs, or which is a much smaller number? Does this work for that?
Rufus, you want to take that?
Sorry, does it work for first downs?
Yeah. In other words, if I'm not up on the numbers, if the number of first downs you're betting on was, I don't know, 35, I don't know what the numbers are. Does this give you a distribution for 30 and 40 and etc.?
It does not. So this is our prop simulator works for player props, because we're actually simulating each reception for a player or each rush to basically to generate a distribution that's tailored to a specific player's receiving average or rushing average. Whereas the distribution for first downs is going to be kind of a little bit more unique, actually. So we don't have anything built for that, unfortunately.
So the last time you were on the show, you said Unabated.com is currently free, but that will not last forever. And so my question is, has forever come yet, or is it near about to come?
It has not come yet. It's still a free site to use. We're actually in the process of changing some of the site around, so you don't even have to sign up to get a good feel for the site. There's quite a few people that have come and said, "Oh, I gotta give an email address." No, I'm out. So we're changing some of the site around so you have a little bit more access without having to even create an account. That said, there is a paywall that's going to be coming. We don't have any price markers yet in terms of how it'll be priced. We do feel it's a product that is very advantageous to bettors. We have guys that have used our product from the beginning of when we went live, which was late summer, and have made significant money using our tools to pick off some mispriced alternate lines, using our tools for prop bets, using our odds screen now, where we have some real-time market makers to find some not so real-time lines that are out there at some of the more recreational books that just don't keep up with the news the way that some of the market-making books do. And so we feel it's a very valuable product to a lot of bettors, and we hope that they will sign up and create accounts and subscribe when we put that paywall up. But for now, still free, Bob, and hopefully you come check it out.
Very good. A couple weeks ago, we had Spanky on our show, and he told us about his Bet Bash, which is happening in a month and a half from now. So I looked at the betbash.co and saw unabated.com is one of the sponsors of Bet Bash. How are you guys involved?
Yeah, so we were actually one of the first sponsors to get involved. We think Bet Bash is going to be great. And it just so happens that the type of bettor that would get value out of Bet Bash is also the type of bettor that gets value out of Unabated. It's the aspirational bettor, the bettor that wants to get an edge at sports betting. If they can't win, they want to lose less. They want to find the ways to trim the house edge. They want to find the ways to take advantage of promotions and bonuses. They want to find ways to not fill away their money at sports betting. They'd rather get ahead, and that's gambling with an edge right there, right? So yes, we're sponsoring Bet Bash. We're going to have a table there. We're probably going to have some merchandise that people would want to sell. We're going to have some giveaways. Spanky's going to have a goodie bag that every attendee gets that has value in it, and we're contributing to some of that value. I won't say exactly how. But Rufus and I will be there, as well as our other founding members will be there. And it'll be a good opportunity to just socialize with other bettors. Rufus and I both attended Bet Bash 1, which was just a single night affair that Spanky had in Jersey City, New Jersey. And it was great. I think I saw Rufus for about 2 minutes of the entire night because he was over in a group of people. I was in a group of people. We just never got to cross paths much. But it was a really fun time getting to meet people and talk about sports betting and hear their stories. And we're looking forward to doing it in early April there at downtown. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Very good. So we're just a few days away from the Super Bowl. If somebody was not planning on betting on the Super Bowl, but unless there was some real meat there, what kind of meat should they be looking for?
All right. So if somebody's listening to this podcast and this is kind of whet their appetite to want to get in and make some Super Bowl prop bets, but they haven't been following the prop market up till now, there are some certain maxims you can follow at this point. The first is you're a little bit late to the game. And as we mentioned earlier, the public is going to bet things up. They're going to bet the yes. They're going to bet the over. You want to look for two-way markets, okay? You don't want to be betting into things that only have a price on the yes. Will Joe Burrow throw for 300 yards and his team win? And the yes is, plus 400 or something. And you go, oh, that sounds like fun. But they don't offer a no there. And that's usually a sign that you're probably betting into too much house vig. The house edge is going to be too great for you. The other thing you want to probably avoid are multi-way markets for the most part. A popular bet is Super Bowl MVP, but that's a multi-way market with a lot of different players listed. It's typically usually a quarterback, but the prices are usually depressed on the quarterback on Super Bowl MVP, so that's not a great market to look into. So look for some things that are a yes-no bet. For instance, here's one that I saw that still has some meat on the bone. Will the score be tied after 0-0? Now, we brought this up on one of our live streams the other night. Rufus, I believe, priced it at no, the score will not be tied after 0-0 at minus 128, which means if you can find better than minus 128, you've got a good price. And there's still plenty of minus 120. I saw minus 1 out there around Vegas even. So that's a good one to look at. Another one that I think is usually misunderstood by the public that you should kind of watch for is, will there be 3 straight unanswered scores by one team? And the public goes, oh, these are 2 really good teams. Therefore, there's no chance that one of them will just crush and score 3 straight times. However, that's actually something that's quite common. And this prop bet is usually well priced. Again, this is one we brought up on the live stream. Rufus priced it at, yes, there will be 3 unanswered scores at minus 186. So in other words, if you want to find value on the yes, you're going to need a lower price than minus 186. And if you're going to find value on the no, you're going to need to get a higher return than plus 186.
Does the extra
Similarly,
point count as one of the 3 scores?
No, it does not.
And they usually say that in the prop bet. They're usually pretty clear on what constitutes a scoring play. And then
and the same thing with will the score be tied after 0-0? That is not before the extra point. So if it was a 6-0 game and a team scores a touchdown to make it 6-6, but then kicks the extra point to go up 7-6, that is not considered the game being tied again. It's after the conversion attempt.
Oh.
And then, in the same vein as that, will there be 3 unanswered scores by one team? They often have, will there be 4 unanswered scores by one team? And that's a little bit more rare of an event. Rufus priced that at yes plus 247. So, you'd have to find a better number than that on the yes on 4 unanswered scores in order to have a good play there.
So, Rufus, do you have any such plays you can share with us that the Jack hasn't already mentioned?
So what I think the best use of money personally would be to wait until as close to kickoff as you can, and then bet unders on marquee players, the star players. Odell Beckham, for example, Odell Beckham receiving yards, Cooper Kupp receiving yards are 2 that I think are going to have been getting a lot of action from the public and are going to continue to get a lot of action. And so 2 bets I'm targeting are Cooper Kupp under receiving yards. I expect that number, as Jack said, it's between 102.5 and 106.5. In fact, Caesars went to 107.5 just this morning. I anticipate we might see 112.5 by kickoff. I'm planning on taking the under when it gets that high, and also Cooper Kupp to not score a touchdown. I make his price to score a touchdown at yes minus 124. Now, there is value in the market right now betting the no, but I think that there will be even more value closer to kickoff. I'm hoping to be getting a price of plus 150, plus 160, maybe even a plus 170. Again, it's all going to depend on the public betting interest, though. One thing that this is the first Super Bowl in a while where we don't really have a team with a ton of public interest. So We've had a lot of Patriots Super Bowls. We've had Chiefs Super Bowls lately. A lot of people that I've talked to that are not sports fans don't really care as much about either of these teams. So it's going to be interesting to sort of see if we do see the sort of the public rush to bet these overs and bet on things to happen, and the opportunities that it provides for people like Jack and myself to find value betting against the public.
What about cross sports betting? Like maybe the number of points LeBron James is going to score versus something in the Super Bowl. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Cross-sport bets. I used to love cross-sport bets because a lot of bettors don't waste their time trying to figure out cross-sport bets because it requires you to do two things instead of one. In other words, you're handicapping two different events instead of just one. And often it's obviously different sports, so it might not be things that you have in your wheelhouse. However, I think it was Frank B. that originally turned me on to these. And Frank pointed out that a lot of times in cross-sport bets, you have man versus team. And when you have man versus team, in other words, LeBron James points versus the Cincinnati Bengals first half points or something like that, you have one single person as a point of failure, whereas the Bengals have a lot of different players that can be subbed in if somebody should get an injury, but there's only one LeBron James. So it goes to that fragility versus anti-fragility that you hear a lot of bit about in statistics. And this is a good situation. I always look for situations where I can bet the under on the man and the over on the team to find the edge in Super Bowl props with cross sports. Westgate always is the leader in terms of putting out these cross sport props. I definitely looked over their list as soon as they came out to try to find a couple. To be honest, I haven't found any that I really, really like that I'd want to share, and the lines have moved on a few of them. So, but I think they're a good spot if somebody wants to kind of look for the path less traveled is the cross sport props.
Now, there are several bets every year that can be spoiled by inside information, such as how long will the national anthem last, or what's the color of the Gatorade, or something where somebody's got to know this. And so lines start to move really close to the game. Is there any advantage in if you see sharp lines, if you see the line moving a lot near the game, get on the bus?
Well, so I think the way to approach these novelty props is keep your eye on social media. That's usually where these stories break, right? So, I don't think it's really worth your time to be researching national anthem and Gatorade props and things like that. Often you have to bet these offshore, although you can bet Gatorade color at a lot of sports books in a lot of states. But national anthem length, I don't think you're going to find offered legally in regulated books because it's a one person can kind of decide that. And so it's a little too much knowledge to have, a little too much chance of inside knowledge. But yeah, if you want to go about them, I'd say keep an eye on social media. I don't think it's worth kind of chasing them. I think they're more gimmicky than anything, and chances are the limits are small anyway.
One of the bets that Michael Shackelford used to promote when he did his version of this show years ago was no 2-point conversion, which was a much different bet 10 years ago than it is today. Today you see 2-point conversions more frequently. Would you guess the no is still a good bet with meat on the bone, I think is your term today? And if so, what price for that meat should we look for?
So I do think the no 2-point conversion converted is a good bet at a lot of places right now. I price it just around minus 350. I bet it at minus 260, minus 270, and minus 280. I think it might get better actually closer to kickoff if we have a lot of the public action betting on it. But even if they don't, I would still bet it up to minus 300 myself.
And another one which has changed since he recommended would be no 4th down conversion. Now it's it's a favorite to have fourth down conversions in the game, but there's still a number at which it's a good bet for somebody, presumably the no.
So it's an overwhelming favorite now, and I have not found any value on it this year actually, or on the Bengals to convert a fourth down or the Rams to convert a fourth down. I found those bets to be appropriately priced. However, and I don't have my numbers right in front of me for it, but if it does get, I don't see the no being huge value this year because I just don't think the public is going to want to lay such a big price on the yes for this. And so, because the public likes betting underdogs, or they don't like betting underdogs, they like lottery payouts. And so I don't think they're going to be risking minus 300 or higher on a bet.
Well, they might take the other side if they're getting plus 300.
Right. And in that case, there could be some value on the yes if that's the case. So.
All right. This has been interesting. Hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl or whatever alternate program they're going to be watching. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Rufus. At the end of our show, we have a recommended section where the host and our guests recommend something or not that they think the listeners might be interested in. So, Richard, do you have a recommended for us today?
Yeah, I think you have talked about the books in the past, the Reacher books by Lee Child.
Yes.
And they made a movie out of one of those stories with Tom Cruise. Reacher is this ex-MP who's this, 6'4" guy who wanders around the country, and invariably he gets embroiled in some kind of investigation of some sort, and ends up helping somebody out. Anyway, they've started a new Reacher series on Amazon Prime. So, unlike Tom Cruise, who's 5'6", playing a guy who's supposed to be 6'4", they got a guy who's, huge. Who does look the part of Jack Reacher. He's kind of wooden as an actor, but anyway, I'm binging the series and enjoying it just because I really enjoyed the books. So if you like to read, I would recommend the books, and if not, I would recommend the series. So that's Reacher on Amazon Prime.
Captain Jack, do you have a recommended for our listeners?
I do. It's a book that I read previously, and I still refer to it every now and then. It's called Willpower Doesn't Work, and the author is Benjamin Hardy. And basically what this is about is if you are the kind of person where you have something in your life that you feel like you could be better at in terms of discipline, and I'm sure there's a lot of APs that this falls into, and you're like, I just need to work harder at this. I just need to be, I need to put in more time doing this and that. This book kind of tells you, you're doing it wrong. The trick is you need to surround yourself with things that make you perform a certain way, whether that be, working at an uncluttered desk instead of a cluttered desk, or setting a very tight schedule for your life rather than leaving yourself to procrastinate. So the book's Willpower Doesn't Work, Benjamin Hardy. I think it was a very good self-help book for myself to read back before, and I still refer to it often.
Does it help on weight loss?
It could. It could absolutely help on weight loss.
Some of us need that help more than others. All right. Rufus and Richard don't look like they need help on weight loss, and probably not Jack, but I've always struggled. So, Rufus, do you have a recommended?
On that note, I will make a recommendation that might result in weight gain. I'm going to recommend a restaurant in the Arts District of Las Vegas, where I live, called Esther's Kitchen, which is a fantastic restaurant. It's small, great ambiance, sort of an open kitchen. The food is, I guess, I would describe it as American Italian. It is absolutely fantastic. All the pasta's homemade, and I probably eat there way too much. They all know my name, so but I really enjoy it, and so I cannot recommend it more highly.
I never thought of Esther as an Italian name before. So I don't know if this is a recommended or not. On Turner Classic Movies, I watched Jezebel recently. This is a 1938 movie where Betty Davis won her second Academy Award, and it also stars Henry Fonda. And it came out basically the same time as Gone with the Wind, and it's a Southern drama. This one happened a few years before the Civil War. And it was very interesting, but I found it curious as the stereotypes. It was on a plantation, and the slaves were very happy with their life. They were singing and dancing, and they really liked being slaves. And I'm just going, wow, you never see that now. So I found it a culture shock, but an interesting one. The acting is great, and Davis deserved her Academy Awards, in my uneducated opinion. But I enjoyed it. I don't know where you can see it. You can rent it, I suppose, because it's Turner Classic Movies recycles their movie every year or 3 or whatever. So it's not like I don't know of any place it's on streaming. It might be. But Jezebel from 1938. All right. Thank you, Captain Jack. Thank you, Rufus Peabody. Thank you, Richard. Go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.